Have you ever looked at your Social Security statement and thought, is this really all I'll be getting? Maybe you've even wondered if there's some kind of secret to boosting those monthly checks, something you missed, or maybe something nobody ever took the time to explain. You're not alone. A lot of folks feel the same way. Social Security is one of those things that we all pay into year after year, and yet when it's time to actually collect, it can feel like walking into a maze without a map. The truth is, how and when you claim your Social Security can make a bigger difference than most people realize. And the good news? There are smart, simple ways to make sure you're getting the most out of what you've earned. You've worked hard your whole life. This is your reward. So today, we're going to talk about how you can maximize those benefits and feel more confident about your retirement income. Now, I know Social Security might not sound like the most exciting topic, but believe me, once you understand how just a few small decisions can impact your monthly income for the rest of your life, it suddenly becomes very interesting. Because this isn't just about numbers on a page, it's about freedom. Freedom to breathe a little easier. Freedom to do what you want, go where you want, maybe even spoil the grandkids a little. And that kind of peace of mind is priceless. Let's start with one of the biggest decisions, and for many, one of the most misunderstood. When to start taking your Social Security benefits. You can start as early as age 62. But here's the thing, doing that means you'll be locking in a smaller monthly payment for the rest of your life. On the flip side, if you wait until your full retirement age, which is somewhere between 66 and 67 depending on your birth year, you'll get your full benefit. And if you wait all the way until age 70, your monthly check could be up to 32% higher than if you had started at 66. That's a big difference. Now, I get it. Not everyone can afford to wait. Life happens. Maybe you've had a health scare, or maybe your job ended earlier than you planned. And that's okay. There's no shame in starting early if it's what you need. But if you're in good health and you've got a little wiggle room, maybe some savings, maybe a part-time gig you enjoy, it can be so worth it to wait. That extra income adds up year after year, and for many people, it can be the difference between just getting by and actually enjoying retirement. But let's say you're married, or were married. Then things get a little more interesting, because spousal benefits can be a powerful tool if you know how to use them. If you were married for at least 10 years, and you're now divorced or widowed, you may be eligible to receive benefits based on your ex-spouse's record. That's right. Even if you never worked a day outside the home, or even if your own earnings were lower, you might be able to receive up to 50% of what they or ex-spouse is entitled to. And don't worry, claiming this benefit doesn't affect what they get. There's also something called survivor benefits, and this is especially important for widows and widowers. If your spouse passed away, you may be entitled to their full Social Security benefit, especially if you wait until your full retirement age or older. I know this part can feel emotional to think about, but it's important. You've earned that right. You supported each other, and now it's your turn to receive the support you deserve. Sometimes couples don't realize they can coordinate their claiming strategies to make the most of both of their benefits. For example, one spouse might start collecting early while the other delays, allowing their own benefit to grow. It can take a little math and planning, but it's worth sitting down and looking at the numbers, or even better, meeting with a financial advisor who understands the system inside and out. Many local senior centers and libraries even offer free workshops to help walk you through it. Another thing most people don't realize is that working while collecting Social Security can affect your benefits, but only if you haven't reached your full retirement age yet. If you claim early and keep working, the Social Security Administration may withhold some of your benefits if you earn over a certain limit. That limit changes every year, but once you hit full retirement age, you can earn as much as you want, and your benefits won't be reduced at all. A lot of folks get nervous about this rule, but here's the twist. Any benefits that are withheld now aren't lost forever. They're added back into your checks once you reach full retirement age. It just takes a little time to balance out. And I want to say something here that I think doesn't get said enough. This system can feel confusing, and that's not your fault. It's complicated on purpose. But just because the rules are tricky doesn't mean you're stuck. You have options. You have power. And the more you know, the more confidently you can step into this next phase of life, not with worry, but with clarity and control. Now that we've talked about the timing of your claim and how your marital status might affect your benefits, let's keep going. Because understanding these pieces is just the beginning. There's more you can do to make the most of what you've earned. One of the most overlooked pieces of the Social Security puzzle is how your work, even after retirement, can affect your benefits. Now, this surprises a lot of people. You might think that once you've started collecting, the numbers are set in stone. But that's not always the case. Let's say you begin collecting Social Security before reaching your full retirement age, maybe at 62 or 63, and then decide to keep working, even just part-time. What most folks don't realize is that the government can reduce your benefits temporarily if you earn more than a certain amount. And I say temporarily because here's the good news. You don't lose that money forever. For 2025, if you're under full retirement age and still working, your benefits will be reduced by $1 for every $2 you earn above $22,320. So if you're doing some consulting work or helping out at a family business and making a few extra bucks, it could impact your check. But, and this is important, once you hit full retirement age, the earnings limit disappears. You can earn as much as you want and your Social Security won't be reduced at all. In fact, the Social Security Administration will even recalculate your benefit to account for the months they withheld payments, which means you could see a bump in your monthly check later on. So don't panic if you're working and collecting early. It's not necessarily a bad move. You just have to know how the rules work and plan accordingly. Some folks actually choose to keep working, take the hit temporarily, and enjoy a higher benefit later, because again, it's not gone forever. Speaking of work and income, there's another twist here. Your Social Security benefits might be taxable. That's right. A lot of people assume that once they retire, they're done with taxes, but the IRS sees it differently. Depending on your total income, including things like pensions, withdrawals from retirement accounts, and yes, even part-time job income, you might owe federal tax on up to 85% of your Social Security benefits. Here's how it works. The IRS adds up your adjusted gross income, plus any non-taxable interest, plus half of your Social Security. If that total, called your combined income, is over $25,000 for individuals or $32,000 for couples, some of your benefits become taxable. And if you're in a higher bracket, that number can really climb. Now, nobody likes the word taxes, but knowing this ahead of time gives you power. You can plan your withdrawals differently, spread out income, or work with a financial advisor to minimize your tax hit. It's not about dodging anything, it's about being smart with what you've earned. And since we're on the topic of planning, let's talk about something that rarely gets mentioned: restarting your benefits if you claim too early. Yep, you heard that right. Social Security gives you one-time flexibility if you change your mind. Let's say you started collecting at 62 but then realized it wasn't the best move. Maybe you got a new job, your health improved, or you just wished you'd waited. Well, within the first 12 months of claiming, you're allowed to withdraw your application and restart the clock. It's called a do-over. But there's a catch. You have to repay all the benefits you've received so far. If you can do that, you can wait and reapply later, which could mean a much higher monthly benefit. Not everyone will want to do this, and it's not the right choice for every situation. But just knowing it's an option can give you some breathing room if you feel like you made a rushed decision. Because retirement isn't always as predictable as we think. Life changes, and it's good to know that Social Security gives you at least a little flexibility. And if you're already past that 12-month window, there's still something you can do. Once you reach full retirement age, you can suspend your benefits. You won't have to repay anything. You simply stop receiving payments for a while, and in return, your benefit starts growing again about 8% each year until you turn 70. When you resume payments, they'll be higher, possibly much higher. Let's be honest, most people don't know these options exist. It's not like the Social Security office hands you a menu with all the smartest strategies. They process your request, you get your check, and that's it. But you're doing the right thing by learning, planning, and asking the right questions now. That puts you miles ahead of the curve. And here's something else worth thinking about. Social Security wasn't designed to cover all your expenses in retirement. It was meant to be a foundation, a base to build on. But the way you use that foundation matters. For example, if your Social Security check covers your basic needs, housing, food, utilities, that gives your other income, like savings or pension funds, more flexibility. You might not need to dip into your 401k as fast. That means more time for it to grow, more options if emergencies pop up, and more peace of mind when the unexpected happens, which, let's be honest, it always does. That's why maximizing your Social Security isn't just about getting a bigger check. It's about building a retirement that gives you room to breathe, room to enjoy, to give, to live fully, not just survive. Because after everything you've done, everything you've overcome, you deserve to feel safe and steady in this season of life. Now, if you've made it this far, that already says something about you. You care. You want to make smart choices. And even more than that, you're willing to take control of your future instead of just letting it happen to you. That kind of mindset, it changes everything.